What's going on, Web3 family? As we've noticed from last week's event, the space we're currently in, the Web3 space, changes at light speed. And staying up to date with the latest market movements is one of the most important things we need to do as NFT project founders, because it might mean the difference between making the right decision or the wrong decision for our NFT project. Which is why in today's video, I have a guest. And that guest is Crypto Kermit, NFT analyst, and one of the smartest people I've met in the NFT space, who also happens to be the Chief Operation Officer at Unfungible, the NFT consulting and marketing agency I've founded. Kermit has worked with some of the largest projects in the NFT space, including Origins, a project you're probably familiar about, one of the top 3 alpha groups in the Ethereum space. And if there's anyone that understands market trends, changes in user behavior, and analyzing market data so we can make smart data-driven decisions, it's Kermit. And in today's video, we're going to be analyzing the latest shifts in the market so we can understand what are the opportunities and risks we have in front of us as NFT project founders. My man, Crypto Kermit, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Have you survived yesterday's market crash?
It's good you're doing great because the market sure hasn't.
Solana at $18.
Yeah, even reached so I've seen it hit like $13. That's a absolute nightmare scenario for plenty people, I'm sure.
I know you're a data geek. Take us through some of the numbers we've been seeing, so the latest market updates over the last couple of weeks.
Sure. First things first, we're going to go over a bit of the market sentiment, a small market update. And really what we're going to be looking at are key indicators like the market's volume, how many people are active in the market, are trading actively, and what are people spending on average daily in the market. So first things off, looking just at the volume. I mean, it's definitely clear that we've been in a downtrend for the past quarter. I mean, since really since August, we've been continuously going down in terms of volume. I mean, approximately 40 to 50% downtrend in ETH-related NFTs. And Solana, interestingly, has been keeping up around the same levels. It has been fluctuating. However, it has remained somewhat stable. It has gone up a bit, but it's nothing too significant. So I'd say it's managed to maintain a relatively stable volume throughout this market. And despite the harsh sentiment we've seen, I mean, it's definitely sure that we're going to be seeing the market evolve and respond back to what's happened today with the market, with the crash that we've just seen. So I'm sure volume is going to reflect that very soon. Moving on to the number of daily active users, we can kind of see the same narrative unfolding here. So ETH has been losing a lot of its momentum in terms of how many people are engaging with the blockchain, especially when it comes to NFTs. So how many people are interacting with NFTs, buying, selling NFTs in the market. That has significantly gone down from averages of 45 to 50,000 people a day to averages of 30 to 35,000 people a day, whereas Solana has seen a pump around the Utes Mint, just like it has with volume. But more or less, it has remained stable throughout the quarter. It has neither gone up too much nor climbed down too much. And lastly, I mean, something I want to cover is the market share that Solana has in the market compared to Ethereum. Whereas Ethereum has been losing a lot of its market share, Solana has been steadily climbing up. So Solana started out the quarter at around maybe 10% market share and has ended it at around 26 or 27% market share.
I do find it surprising, by the way, that that volume was pretty healthy yesterday on Solana.
Yeah, I mean, volume sustained on Solana. I think we might see a change today, especially today, given what just happened to Solana. One thing you need to keep in mind is the buyer persona within Solana, within the Solana ecosystem, and within the ETH ecosystem tends to be different, whereas on ETH, people tend to be a lot more mature in the space, so they tend to have spent a lot of time in the space. They tend to know some of the cycles. They're well-versed in general, obviously, not everyone. Whereas on Solana, a lot of times it's younger folks, people who just entered the crypto market, people who just entered the crypto market maybe in the last bull run or maybe just recently. So that's also very interesting to note and keep in mind within both ecos. So yeah, and lastly, within the realm of market updates is the average user spend. So if you would have asked me yesterday what the average user spend was, that would have been a completely different story, just because of cryptos or the prices of cryptocurrencies collapsing. So on average throughout this quarter, people have been spending on Ethereum an average of $230 a day, which amounts to 0.175 Ethereum. The reason I was saying, if you asked me yesterday, it would have been a different answer, because yesterday that was worth $300. So that's a big, big shift. And on Solana, we've seen a consistent 2.8 Solana daily spend. Yesterday was worth $90. Today it's worth just a little bit under $60. So yeah, I mean, one thing to consider is if you're a project founder, if you're considering starting a project on either ecosystem, what people are comfortable spending is definitely something you should consider. It's not to say that this is the price that everyone is willing to spend on any project that comes about. You have to have some sort of social proof, some sort of reason why people want to invest in the first place. But these are averages or approximations of what people are rather comfortable spending in the space in a day, right? So a lot of, for example, KPR, a big project that just launched recently on the 2nd of November, had a mint price of 0.2 ETH, which is very close to what people are comfortable spending. So that's a big, big reason why people end up, spending less time in the consideration stage money on your project.
One thing that's very interesting is that even though NFTs are a sub niche, and of course of crypto, there are within the NFT space there are sub niches within that, and as we've seen, there are different metas of NFTs. We have metaverse based NFTs, we have gaming based NFTs, we have art based NFTs, we have community based NFTs. And as we've seen over the last couple of months, since we really started tracking those data points, we started tracking those the different marketing strategies that are performing for the different metas for our different clients, we've started to notice that some metas have been outperforming others at different times of the market. And this could actually be very interesting to bring up for the people watching that are thinking of launching a project, who are probably launching a project in one of those couple metas.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to cover. So I mean, let's get right into it. So Nansen actually provides great data in terms of what metas are performing well in the market right now. And really the best way to look at this index is sort of in this way. So if I were to invest $1,000 back in January of 2022, so January of this year, where would my $1,000 be today? So for example, if you look at this blue line, you'd have just above $1,000. So you'd be positive on your investment. You'd have a positive ROI. Whereas with anything else, really, you'd be in the negative. And this is kind of the state of the bear market, as things are generally down. And the interesting thing is, just looking at the most underperforming one, we can directly see this yellow line, which is gaming, right? So we've had this huge P2E wave, we've had this huge GameFi wave, this GameFi trend, and we've also seen a huge, probably the biggest uptrend in terms of metaverse. So the metaverse sector was doing very well pre-April, but we've seen it go down month after month following the other side mint. And these happen to be the two worst performing metas, right? So if you look at metaverse, it's went from the absolute top of the list to, the before last, right? So it's the second worst right now. Gaming is doing just horribly. It's at maybe a 75% loss. And interestingly enough, this is something I've pointed out throughout this video as well. There is one line that's actually is in a positive ROI. It's actually at a 10% positive ROI on average. And this blue line is art-related NFTs, which is very, very interesting. So these are the exact numbers if you look through each line. So where they are at today, art is the only one with a positive ROI. So if you invested in general $1,000 on NFTs in January, you would be 10% up today.
That's generational wealth.
I mean, it sure beats gaming. It sure beats GameFi. It beats a lot of stock options. It beats a lot of the stock market.
It sure does. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It sure does. It does beat the stock market. One point of interest, and this is something we've looked into very deeply, is what are the reasons why gaming and metaverse have been underperforming? So what are some of the catalysts that led it to underperform the rest of the market?
So when you think of metaverse projects, the biggest reason they are underperforming now is because a lot of people were promised spectacular things with the metaverse. A lot of people were promised alternate realities, really things that would blow your mind, and for you to be able to connect with people around the world and have meetings in this metaverse, right? So potentially us having this call in the metaverse. But that's not what happened. It's not where the metaverse is today. And the numbers, so if you look at how many people are interacting with metaverse related projects, it's astronomically down. The numbers are nowhere near being attractive to buyers, which is why metaverse projects have really gone down. People have lost trust in projects promising metaverse, anything related to the metaverse. It was a trend at one point. Every single project coming out was promising a metaverse, right? We're going to mint out. Give us your money. We're going to mint out. We're going to make a metaverse. And that was the elevator pitch everyone used. When it comes to gaming, it was also the second most popular elevator pitch, is we're going to mint out and we're going to make a token and everyone's going to become wealthy. And that started with a lot of success in the P2E space, with a lot of people really earning considerable amounts. But if you're interested in knowing more about why the P2E space isn't performing as well, I do have a lot of reasons for it. I don't think explaining it in one video is enough.
A big part of is the tokenomics are just off. There hasn't been a brand, a startup, a project that was able to build a tokenomic structure that is healthy, that is sustainable. We've seen a lot of trials and error. We've seen StepN recently come out with their own token. It did well, did great for some time, and then crashed. So we still haven't seen that tokenomics model turn into something sustainable for long-term business success. Is that the core reason, you would say?
Definitely. Number one is tokenomics. Number two is games aren't really fun to play. No one is really having fun playing any of these games. Everyone who plays is just playing to earn. And most times the earning isn't really anything worth it either. This leads us to our next topic that I really wanted to cover, which is why is generative art outperforming every single asset or asset class, asset type in the space? And really, there are 5 main reasons, which I'll go through quickly. Number 1 is art has historical significance. When you think of NFTs in crypto, NFTs are 7 years old. Crypto is 14 years old, whereas art is at least 45,000 years old. And that's nothing new, right? So when you think of NFTs, a lot of people are really unsure about where they're going to be in the next 2 to 3 years. A lot of people are unsure whether they're going to remain, whether it's just a fad, how they're going to look like, what the trend is going to look like. Whereas generally with art, it's a much more established market, right? It's been around for a really long time, which leads us to point number 2 is art has a more established market. NFTs, for example, are yet to find their product market fit, right? So if I ask you, what is an NFT? I remember we had a conversation a while ago and you told me a friend of yours at a dinner was asking you, what can you do with NFTs?
I was like, well, yeah, listen, man, it's early, but hey, give it some time.
Actually, the point is people struggle to define NFTs. If you're not really in the space, if you're not, as deep in the space as I am sometimes, you can really struggle to, kind of put into words what an NFT is, what the utility of a project is, what it does, where it's going, how it's helpful to anyone, how it's an investment. Whereas art has a perfect product market fit. Do you know what the market fit for art is?
It's art.
It's art. No one expects it to be anything but art, which is why it leads us to the 3rd point, which is art projects have a different timeline. Let me ask you this, Leon. How many times or how many announcements do you expect in NFT Discords?
For communities, probably once every day, 2 days, 3 days. Regularly, very regularly.
How many announcements do you think people expect from art-related projects?
Once a century.
You're very accurate, though. You're very, very close. It's very obvious that once you go into very hyped projects like Bored Apes, projects like Azuki, a lot of upcoming projects, even KPR that just minted recently, a lot of people want to know what's next. A lot of people are in a rush. This is not the case for the art-related space. So art-related NFTs, people tend to not have the same expectations. Whenever someone mints an art-related NFT, they don't expect utility. They don't expect, all of this that I call fancy sort of utility, fancy development, fancy future. All they expect is art. People buy into art-related NFTs a lot of times because they identify with the art, they identify with the artist, they identify with the message. That's what they expect for their piece to be, is just for it to remain their piece. And this leads us to the 4th point, which is that art has a bigger market with deeper pockets. So if you look at the art market, it has a $65 billion value, whereas the NFT market has a 2.3 billion market value. That's almost 3.4% of the entire art market. So if you were to visualize this as a pie, NFTs would constitute a very small piece of that pie, a very diet-friendly piece of that pie. Just to go back a few points ago, art is 30% of the NFT market's volume. So that leaves a 2% piece of the NFT's pie.
Something else I think that is notable to bring up is, and this is really looking at things from the angle of the generative art market. So there's a couple of things that the generative art market has that the PFP, the rest of the market, does not have. The first one is a high barrier of entry. So you can't just go and hire a generative artist on Fiverr that's going to be able to pump a collection of 1,000. Number one, it's more complicated to create generative art versus PFP collections. I can create a full 10K collection for you for $300 just today. The second thing is we are seeing that generative art has a growing market. And this is a stat we brought up a couple of days ago, Kermit. And that was that, if I get the numbers wrong, please hop on. But 86% of art collectors around the world are considering buying in the next year. And about 40% of them are considering buying NFT art. And that's a lot of people. That's a couple million people out there with deep pockets that understand the value of art and are not looking at NFTs to make a profit. Therefore, the sell pressure typically that we see on art collections are a lot lower. However, of course, convincing those buyers to hop in your collection is a different ballgame, one that we won't be talking about, but it has the buyer dynamics for art collections is different than it is for typical PFPs, P2E, Metaverse projects.
You're absolutely right. I think the data point or the metric you're looking for, so 88% of what we call in the art space HNWs, so that's high net worth collectors. 88% of all the high net worth collectors looking to buy art in 2022 and 2023 are looking to buy into art related NFTs, which is a very high percentage. It shows that a lot of efforts by auction houses like Christie's and are really starting to show in how art collectors are considering hopping into the space. And yeah, it's a great point you make. I mean, when a buyer is considering buying into a PFP project, they're really considering, do I like the roadmap? Whereas with art projects, people are asking themselves, do I like the art? So that's a fundamental difference in how people perceive both of these projects.
I guess that would be a great transition to talk a little bit about how marketing strategies have actually shifted over the last couple of months. At the end of the day, we're all builders here. And there's two layers to building a great project. And it's number one, creating a great product. And number two is having the ability to put it in front of the right people. And this market changes at light speed. And the way we market our collections is constantly changing. So what have you been seeing in terms of what are the latest marketing strategies right now happening in the market?
Yeah, we've really noticed a lot of changes in the market. Really, I've narrowed it down to 3 points that I'm going to go over quickly. So really, the big projects that we've been seeing coming out all of a sudden, for a lot of people, it's all of a sudden, right? So a lot of people didn't anticipate a lot of these projects doing well. One of them is Art Gobblers that just minted out for free and netted around 1 to 2 million in secondary volume, or from secondary volume. Number two was KPR, a big project that's very big on art and its UX, user experience, its website, that netted around 3.2 million on its mint. Of course, that's, if you take into consideration the price of ETH, which is probably a lot lower today. Number three, we have Valhalla coming out and Ether that is yet to come out. And all of these projects coming out that a lot of people are talking about in the space all of a sudden have really shown something changing in the market. And the first thing you notice with a lot of these projects is how long they've been in the space. So Ether has been around for 11 months. Art Gobblers has been around for 10. KPR for 9 and Valhalla for 6 months, right? And so KPR just minted. They've been around for 9 months. Art Gobblers just minted. They've been around for 10. So really the marketing window for projects, it has really changed. Whereas within the bull market, marketing windows for most projects tended to be somewhere around a month, maybe 2 months before a project minted. And right now what we're seeing is projects are going anywhere between 6 months to 11 months, almost a year before considering that they're ready for mint, that they're ready to mint out. And this really shows you a big difference in how buyers perceive different projects, how they consider buying into different projects. And this is in big part why maturation and letting your project mature, building the connections in the space, really showcasing that you're here to stay has become really important in the market and has made the difference for a lot of projects, allowing projects to mint anywhere near a $3.5 million mint out. And the number two thing that I found out is a lot of projects are moving away from the like, retweet, comment, tag your friends, follow me, do this, do that for a chance of whitelist. Yet people are still going for that. I mean, they know what to do. They know to interact. They know to tag their friends. However, the packaging is much different. Like, for example, this post really surprised me by KPR. The caption is just toxic, right? So it's describing, obviously, the art in that picture. And really, if you look through most of their posts, this is what you find. So pay close attention. You're going to need a bigger army. And you tend to notice the same thing with Valhalla. So he said we should see other people. So I give him 6 different personalities. New type, toxic player. I think a lot of these projects are toying with the same concepts, right? Toxic. I found a lot of similarities between KPR and Valhalla. I'm not sure it's accidental. Yeah, even in the art, even in the format of the art. I'm not sure it's accidental. I don't know if it's accidental. We're on to you. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, again, look at how the different captions are written. So the only one that mentions a call to action is very subtle. He reacts to your girl's story, what you do. What you do, right? And lastly, we have Ether. So it's very, very story driven. It's less about content. It's less about sort of engagement farming, and it's more towards storytelling. It's more towards showcasing your art. It's more towards showcasing so for Valhalla, a big angle is the collaborations they're doing and their art. And the last thing I've been noticing around the space, which has definitely picked up, is the rise of the application meta. So the rise of projects deploying application processes for you to be part of their whitelist. It's a topic that's been a point of conversation in the space. A lot of people tend to be against it. A lot of people tend to be against it because a lot of these application processes do favor people with more followers, with more engagement, people with bigger audiences. But I mean, for the project itself, it's probably a good thing for you to have a fan base of the most influential people in the space, or the most influential people in your project, bringing them in, giving them whitelist, rewarding them with something. And this is, for example, Valhalla's website. If you go on, so the only way you can apply is if someone who's already accepted gives you a code. So this is the only way you can make an application. This is how exclusive it gets. And this is how different projects are kind of also toying with scarcity and exclusivity.
That's beautiful, man. So if we are to recap the points you brought up, the first one is longer marketing timeframes for projects. The second one is storytelling marketing. And the third one is we've seen the application meta, the rise of the application meta. So those are really the 3 major incremental shifts that we've seen in the way we market projects. Kermit, it was a great session, really a lot of value there. Really appreciate you as always, man. You're a gem, not only to the NFT space, but to Unfungible. Where can people find you, buddy?
You can find me on Twitter at crypto__Kermit. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best place to find me. I do tend to post a lot of my findings there.